Can the Montreal Canadiens help out the Vegas Golden Knights? And maybe a better question that we should be asking is, should they? Let's talk today about Vegas Golden Knights forward William Karlsson and dive into the salary cap situation of the Vegas Golden Knights, which could potentially prompt a Montreal Canadiens hotline. This is the Vegas Golden Knights and their salary cap picture right now. They have $8.6 million spent over the salary cap limit of $104 total million. Everybody is under contract, essentially. I mean, they don't have Riley Smith under contract, Brandon Saad doesn't have a deal, nor does Ben Hutton. But when it comes to the salary cap structure of Vegas, even when you put into account Alex Pietrangelo's $8.8 million, there still is a very, very tight salary cap picture for this Golden Knights team. And as a result, you've had some outlets, some folks in the media, talking about William Karlsson as a potential cut from this team. This is why on the Trust the Process Sick podcast, you had a segment diving into whether or not the Montreal Canadiens should target William Karlsson this summer. And furthermore, you had an article that was written about this too by Nick LaRiviere on thesickpodcast.com. This piece came out earlier in the week, why the Canadiens should inquire about William Karlsson. Could the Canadiens find a solution to their second-line center problem in Vegas Golden Knights veteran center William Karlsson? The Habs are still looking for that center that could be a fit for the team, either for the long term or as a stopgap until their top prospect is ready to take on that role. In terms of stopgap options, there may be no easier option than to get William Karlsson. He may not be the most skilled option on the market for the Habs, but the Golden Knights desperately need to shed cap space before the end of the offseason, as they are currently $8.6 million over the 26-27 campaign. It could be solved by putting Alex Pietrangelo's $8.8 million on the LTIR, but they won't be able to have much movement salary-wise if they go that route, and therefore should look to move salary out. This is where a player like Karlsson could be an option to be a cap casualty. Linked is a tweet from Fergie, who went out there and said this: with Vegas at negative $8.61 million on the cap, dare I say someone has to be moved. Either Tomas Hertl, William Karlsson, or Ivan Barbashev. And here's the thing, each of these guys would probably make for a fine candidate to get moved if you were to strictly look at it from a monetary point of view. Barbashev makes $5 million a year till the end of 2028, William Karlsson makes 5.9, and Tomas Hertl makes 6.75. Hertl is 32, Karlsson is 33, and Barbashev is 30. But really, when you think about it, I'd say that William Karlsson stands out as probably the more likely to get traded out of the three. I would say that Hertl is probably better offensively than these two. I'd say Barbashev is a little more versatile as a winger. William Karlsson, he's an original misfit. He's a guy that was a 40-goal scorer in his very first season with the Vegas Golden Knights. He set the tone for what this franchise could accomplish. But this season, the Vegas Golden Knights proved that they could still be a pretty reasonable contending caliber team without William Karlsson in the lineup. He only played 14 games in the regular season after all. Now, sure, he played 15 games in the playoffs and had 9 points. He was very good and was consistently productive against the Carolina Hurricanes. But William Karlsson is a name that probably has a little more flexibility to getting moved when you compare his contract to that of Ivan Barbashev's and even Tomas Hertl's. Karlsson is a little bit more expensive, and he only has 1 year left, so this isn't really a longer hold option for the Golden Knights, even if they were to use him on their team. This is why this article on thesickpodcast.com goes out there and talks about how the Montreal Canadiens, even though they likely see Michael Hage as the plan to be their future second-line center, he's returning to Michigan. So there should be another stopgap in between. William Karlsson makes $5.9 million for another season before he becomes a UFA, which would allow the Habs the opportunity to move on easily after the year. Then Hage can take over, or if they need to bring Karlsson back for a year, they can do that as well. Last season, the 33-year-old Swede played just 14 games due to an LBI that kept him out long-term, in which he had scored 7 points. He also played 15 games in the Golden Knights playoff run where he had 9 points. With that said, there is risk in taking Karlsson on, but the playoffs showed that he still has the ability to be an average second-line center at this point. Although the last few years have been up and down for Karlsson, with him many years removed from his breakout year back in 2017, when he had scored 43 goals and 78 points in 82 games. He has shown that when healthy, he can score somewhere between 55 and 60 points, which is a decent point total for a second-line center around the league. This is why it's worth taking the risk on him, as he could slot in perfectly up the middle on a line with a playmaker like Ivan Demidov. Now, I like the sound of that, honestly. Yes, William Karlsson may be a little bit older for the bunch, but for a guy that was consistently scoring 50, 60-ish points a year, even last year when he had 29 points in 53 games played, do the math on that over 82, that's a reasonable 45-point pace. And then this previous season, 7 points, 14 games, that's obviously a half a point a game pace. While he hasn't necessarily been the healthiest the past little while, when he is healthy, he is generally a good player, and especially in the postseason, this is where William Karlsson usually turns it on. 15 points in 20 games in the opening season for the Golden Knights as they lost to Ovechkin in the finals. 5 points in 7 games as the Golden Knights lost in round 1. Half a point a game the next year, so maybe not the best, but still, the Golden Knights made the third round before inevitably losing to, I believe it was Dallas. But in 2021, when Vegas made the third round again and lost to Montreal, Karlsson had 16 points in 19 games at that point. 22-23 comes along, Karlsson has 17 points in 22 games in that playoff run, followed up by 2 points, 6 points, and 9 points the next runs after that. William Karlsson genuinely comes alive in the postseason, and this is the kind of guy who, after experiencing the explosion that he had in 2017-18, which, by the way, it's like 9 years ago. It's kind of ridiculous when you think about it. This is a guy who broke out at 24 years old on the brand new expansion team. If there's anybody that knows what it's like to be an underdog, to have nobody have any expectations of you, and to defy those expectations anyway, it's probably William Karlsson. I'd say this guy has a really great story, and the work ethic, the ways in which he was able to carve out a career for himself, these all lend themselves very well to becoming positive Montreal Canadiens elements. This article then goes out there and talks about how Karlsson is a guy that was played alongside another great playmaker like Mitch Marner, and then the same could be said with Ivan Demidov. Karlsson could also take some of the pressure off of Philippe Deneau, especially for a guy that was a very positive face-off winning percentage player last year. If the Canadiens were to go out there and get him, he would be another option to play on the PK, and he would almost certainly center the second power play unit. The truth is, the Canadiens have the opportunity to get a veteran second-line center for something like a mid-round pick or a low-end prospect. Then again, Vegas, they're the team that traded Marc-Andre Fleury for essentially nothing, so maybe the Canadiens could get him for free if the Golden Knights continue the trend of giving up on players to get under the cap. Now that's a pretty big, bold statement to make, eh? Hey Vegas, can you give us William Karlsson? Okay, what's in it for us? Nothing. Who knows if Vegas actually accepts that? They do need some cap help after all. But with that said, you can let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. How do you feel about William Karlsson as a potential Montreal Canadiens trade target? Is this a guy that makes sense in your mind? Is he too old for the bill? He's got 1 year left at 34 years old. I'd say that he'd be reasonable. 33 turning 34. He'll be 34 by the end of the next season. You know what I mean. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Is William Karlsson a possible target here? I hope you enjoyed this video. And Bye.